Test. Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Very happy to see that so many showed up this time. I gave this talk 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there were like only 5 people in the room. That's why we are doing another run of this, and this time it will be recorded as well. As you can see, the link to the slides is at the bottom. So if you want to take a screenshot of this title slide and then you want to look at it at home, you can do that, or you can even follow now with your phone. Okay, everybody has taken a screenshot. Great. First of all, you might not be aware that I'm from the Python user group Singapore, and we are a nonprofit organization. Initially, 13, 14 years ago or so, we created this entity so that we can collect sponsorship money for running Python conferences in Singapore. And I have been organizing Python conferences for the last 6, 7 years or so. We also have an official website where you could subscribe to our newsletter. So there's a paid membership, then you actually become a member of the society and you will be invited to the AGM and so on. But there's also a free membership where it's basically once per month we will announce what we are doing and what we have done, links to the videos that we have recorded. So that's a way to keep up to date about what the Python community is doing in Singapore. You might want to follow us on meetup.com. So we do monthly meetups. Apart from these events here at the library, we also meet at any company's office whoever invites us. And then there's 1 or 2 speakers. And then we will do more advanced talks that might be interesting to people who use Python professionally. Yeah? And we also have a Telegram group, which is, so this link will expire in a week or so. So if you want to join a Telegram group, and there's currently, since our last meetup last week, we have crossed the 100 members barrier. So there are 100 true human Singaporeans. We only show this at actual meetups, so there is no bots and scammers inside. Yeah? So you may consider joining the Telegram group. I will show this at the end of the talk again. Yeah, my name is Martin. I'm the CTO of theartlink.com. We are an online art gallery. You can see a screenshot of our website over here. So we sell artworks. As I said, I have been a committee member of the Python user group Singapore for more than 10 years. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter if you want to see me rant about the world. So we have already seen earlier when we did the show of hands that most of you haven't actually seen part 1 of this talk. So you may want to have a look at that in your spare time sometime. So it's similar slides. Yeah. And so part 1 was about summarizing YouTube videos, okay? So today we were trying to summarize books, Kindle books, and this was about summarizing YouTube videos. Very similar concept. So there was a talk about that. There's also a video recorded on YouTube, so you can
also have a new website
now. you can search for Python user group Singapore and you will find this talk as well. And then you could code along and you could build your own YouTube summarizer. It's actually incredibly useful. I've been using this for many months already and saved thousands of hours of time. Instead of watching a 2-hour YouTube video, I just summarize it in 15 seconds and I read the summary in 1 minute, and then I saved 2 hours of my time. So in that talk, basically there were 4 steps. First, we wrote a little script that downloads the audio of the YouTube video. Then we wrote a little script that transcribes the audio to text. And then we wrote a little script that chunks those text into no more than 14,000 words, because the ChatGPT context window only can take in so many words. And then finally, we send those chunks to ChatGPT and constantly ask it, please summarize this bunch of 14,000 words. Yeah? And it creates pretty good summaries. And we will do something very similar today. Okay. So what are we trying to do today? Hello. Okay, I will wait for you to sit down. Okay, so today our program will have 5 steps. Okay, first we will take a screenshot of a Kindle page. So I have my Kindle app open on my computer, and as I'm reading, I will take screenshots of each page. Then we will transcribe those screenshots into text files, similar to with the YouTube videos, where we transcribe audio into text. This time we will transcribe screenshots into text, okay? Then, similar to last time, we will have to chunk that text into a certain amount of words. And then finally, we will ask ChatGPT for summaries of all those chunks. And then here's an additional step now where I format the whole output into a nice way so that I can copy and paste this into my Notes app using Logseq. I will show you this app at the very end as well. And that app has this bullet point concepts where everything is nested in bullet points under each other. And so I'm making sure that my summaries are such that I can just paste them straight into Logseq and I don't have to worry about the formatting at all. Yeah? And the third part of this 3-part series, which I will prepare sometime in January, will then try to use vector databases to query all the knowledge in Logseq so that I can basically talk to my own notes and I can say like, what do I know about cholesterol? And then it finds all the notes about cholesterol, and ChatGPT will then try to answer my question based on my own notes. Yeah? But yeah, that's for next time. So, so first step, also to visualize so that you have an idea what we are trying to achieve, is we will use Python's pillow library to take a screenshot, yeah? And we will make sure that it only takes the screenshot like from what we can see here with the red bar, with the red border. Yeah, we only want to take the actual text as a screenshot, not the whole page, because you can see the Kindle app has other texts over here as well. And if we would try to transcribe that into text, then all this surrounding text will become part of that transcription, and that will mess up our actual content. Yeah? So we will make sure to take a screenshot of a part of our screen only. Then we will use a library from Python called PyTesseract to turn that screenshot into a simple text file. Yeah? So this uses simple OCR technology. This is nothing new. I think this library has been around probably for 10 years or so. And it's very, very accurate to turn machine-readable text on screenshots into proper text. Yeah? Okay, so then in step 3, that's the hardest part to understand, I guess. Imagine, so the book looks kind of like this. Yeah, we have a chapter, we have a sub-chapter, and then there's going to be the content of that sub-chapter, and then there's going to be the next sub-chapter. And our difficulty will be to extract only the text that's from one headline to the next headline, so that we know we have the text only for one sub-chapter. Okay, and then we want to have the text for the next subchapter, and so on. Yeah, and so because we will tell ChatGPT to summarize each subchapter, we will tell it the title of the book, the title of the main chapter, the title of the subchapter, and then the actual whole text of the subchapter, and then we ask it to write a summary for that. Okay, so kind of we want to turn these screenshots into a Python data structure, which is like a list of the texts of each subchapter. So each item in this list here is one whole subchapter content, okay, without the title of the subchapter. Okay. And then once we have extracted all those subchapter contents into a list, we will then chunk them up into 32,000 words or something like that, and then send them to ChatGPT. And the prompt will always be this. Your task is as follows. Create a bullet point summary of the following text. Do not just list the general topic, but the actual facts. So this is something I realize when it makes summaries. Sometimes it gets into the mode where it just says, the people are discussing the impact of, I don't know, some medication on some health outcome. But I want to know exactly, like if I take so and so much milligrams of this substance, it will have this effect on my blood pressure or whatever, right? Sometimes ChatGPT only gives you... no, I will not deal with subchapters. Yeah, sometimes ChatGPT only describes in general what they were talking about, but when you add this to the prompt, then it will give you the real facts. Yeah? Something, increased by X or something. I wanna know the real fact. And then sometimes ChatGPT will produce bullet points, but sometimes it uses dash, sometimes it uses asterisk, sometimes it uses underscores and some nonsense like that. So if you tell it to always just use dash, then it will look better. Okay. And then I will say, keep in mind the following context, and we will always inject the title, the chapter title, and the subchapter title. And then here at this position of the prompt, we will inject as much content of that subchapter as we can fit into the context. Okay. Let's wait for 1 minute. Okay, so I will describe this chunking process more later. And then finally, we want to make sure that the summary has a nice format, so that there's like this is Markdown format, right? There's going to be a main headline. Then here's our subchapter title. The main headline is the main chapter title, and then indented is the actual summary that ChatGPT gave us. And I can just copy this whole Markdown content into my Notes app, and it will then look like something like this. Okay, so this is what we're trying to achieve. Let's get started. After waiting for 1 minute. All right, so this is the main goal of this talk, right? I assume you have never done a Python program before, and I kind of want to demonstrate what it feels like to build a Python program from scratch, okay? So the first thing I always do when I start a new project is I create a folder somewhere in my projects folder, and I come up with a name for this project. So let's call this project Kindle Scrape, okay? So in my projects folder, I will create a Kindle Scrape folder, and then inside that folder, I'll create another Kindle Scrape folder. That's a bit difficult to explain why I do that. Usually when I write Python libraries like this, there's always the project name is twice, okay? Let's ignore that for now. It's a little bit advanced. So you can do these kind of things on the terminal, right? I can use the mkdir command, which means make directory. And then I can say from my home folder, I know there's a projects folder, and inside that folder, I want to have a Kindle Scrape folder. And inside that folder, I want to have another Kindle Scrape folder. Okay, so this creates those folders on my disk. And the cd command means change directory. So this now goes into the project folder and into the Kindle Scrape folder. And when I do ls, which means list files, then I can see there is another Kindle Scrape folder inside my first Kindle Scrape folder. Okay, so I just created a project folder for my project. Okay, so then we are going to create a whole bunch of files. Of course, this is pretty easy for me to do because I'm quite experienced. I know what kind of files I will most likely need for a project like this. You would probably just start with one main.py file, and then you start coding and coding. And as the file grows, you will decide to split it up into smaller files and so on. And if you've done that 2 or 3 times, then you gain the experience, and you can probably plan in advance already what kind of files you will need. Okay. For now, let's just create a whole bunch of files. And if you would try all this at home, right? You can double check if you did it correctly by using the tree command. So if I now run the tree command, it shows me all the files in my current folder, and it recursively goes into subfolders as well. Okay, so we can see I created a file .gitignore. I created a folder called files, which contains 3 more folders: screenshots, summaries, and texts. And we already had the other Kindle Scrape folder. And inside of that folder, I put this Python file over here. I think with Python 3, it's probably not necessary to do this anymore, but I'm used to it from many, many years of using Python. This kind of just tells Python that this folder here is supposed to be a Python package. Yeah? And then we have a local settings file. And since we are doing 5 steps in our program here, I created 5 files for each, 1 file for each step. Okay. And then we have a requirements text file here, which we will look at in a second. Let's wait for 1 minute. You have to pull very hard. Pull very hard, the door. Yep. Yeah, slide F. Very cool. It's super fun to make slides with it. Maybe if anyone else comes late, let them just sit down. And then at the end, we will announce anyone who came late, they can register with you at the end of the talk, right? Otherwise, it's too disruptive. Okay, so we have created all the files now, yeah? And we will start filling up the git ignore file, okay? This is actually something that you don't necessarily need for every Python project. Create it. So, by the way, I'm using an editor called Visual Studio Code. You can go to the VS Code website, download it, install it, works on every operating system. And when I want to start a new project, I go into the folder where I have put all the files of my project, and then I type code, space, and dot. The dot means I want to start Visual Studio here in this folder where I currently am, which is the Kindle scrape folder, okay? So now Visual Studio opens up and I can see all the files that I've created over here on the left side. Yeah? So when you click here, you can see this is your file browser and I can see all the files. Yeah? And so we will start with the git ignore file because usually I write open source software and I put all my stuff on GitHub. And there are usually certain files in every project that contain secrets that you don't want to commit to GitHub, okay? So we will soon fill out the local settings file, for example, and I'm going to put secrets into that file, like my OpenAI API key. And so I never want to accidentally push that into GitHub so that other people in the world can see my OpenAI key. And then they can, use that key to do requests to ChatGPT, and then I have to pay for it, right? Okay. So that's in the git ignore file now. So next, let's do the local settings file, okay? So I have already prepared this. So here I have to fill in my username from my computer. And over here, I will have to fill in an API key. Let me show you how that looks like. So if you are a paying customer of OpenAI, then you can log in and you go to API. And then over here, there's API keys. And so this was me trying it out yesterday. Let's delete this one and let's create a new one. Let's call this one Kindle Talk. And then it shows me the key. And you really have to copy it somewhere. As soon as you close this window, you can never see this key again, okay? So I'm gonna fill this in here now. Yeah, so please, while I'm talking, please don't go and do 100,000 ChatGPT requests so that I become a poor person. Yeah. So, and then later, I will have to fill in the coordinates of where my Kindle app actually is. So let me show you this. When I open the Kindle app, the book is here in the center, okay? When I do screenshot tool on Mac, I can see tiny little coordinates. You probably can't see that on the slides, but there are numbers, X and Y coordinates, okay? So I have to go like from 666 and 71 all the way down to 1299 and 1031, okay? I've actually already noted this down earlier. So my coordinates for this screen are going to be like this, and I'm gonna fill that in here. Yeah, because when I plug in the projector, it's a different screen resolution than what I normally have on my big monitor at home. So these numbers change depending on which monitor I'm currently using. Okay.
Will this coordinate accommodate almost all Kindle books?
I mean, yeah, it works on. Yeah, of course. I mean, let's say I make the book as small as this, then the coordinates are different. Then I have to measure from here to here, right? So whatever your screen size is, that's the coordinates that you have to note down. Okay. All right, so let's close this and let's get back to the slides. Okay, and so you see the API key is obviously a secret, right? And that's why we put that file into the git ignore file so that I don't actually accidentally push that into the internet, into the Git. Now let's have a look at the requirements text file. So normally, when you start a Python program, you don't already know what kind of packages you will need in your Python program. You kind of discover this as you go along. So it's kind of, you ask yourself, how do I take a screenshot in Python? You ask ChatGPT, you Google around, and then you learn that there's a library called Pillow. Okay, so then you would install that library using pip, and you would see what version it has installed, and then you would take note. Aha, I have installed Pillow, and this is the version that I have installed. Okay, so as your project gets more and more complicated, and you add more and more packages, you will add all these things that you have used into this requirements text file. Okay, so then maybe half a year later, you've already forgotten that you've worked on this before, and maybe you got a new computer and you have to set everything up again. Then luckily you have the requirements text file, so you can install all the packages again with exactly the same versions as you had before. Okay, and how do we install this? You will have to learn about something called virtual environments. Okay, normally when you have installed Python on a computer, you can do this. You can do pip install and then let's say requests. That's a very popular library. And then it will download this, but it will download this into my global Python installation. Okay, and so you may have a lot of different projects on your computer, and they may use different versions of request library, for example. Then how do you switch between all the versions when you switch working between different projects? Yeah? You can see that it would be a huge hassle every time you would have to install those versions that you need right now for this project, and then when you go to the next project, you have to reinstall everything again, and you're constantly downloading hundreds and hundreds of megabytes of data for nothing. Yeah, so there's the concept of virtual environments. So there's the website here for PyEnv that teaches you how to install PyEnv, and then there's also a so-called PyEnv virtual env plugin. Here it teaches you how to do that. There are actually similar projects like this for Windows. So if you want to do this on Windows, you need to Google for PyEnv Windows, and there's a similarly easy installation instructions, but it's slightly different. It's not exactly this repo that I've linked over here. Okay, so let's say we have installed PyEnv and PyEnv virtual env. Now we can do something like this. We can, as usual, we go into the folder where our project is. We are currently already in that folder. And then we have the pyenv command now on our terminal, and we can use the virtual env subcommand to create a virtual environment of any name that we like. Okay, so here I'm basically saying I want to make a virtual environment called Kindle Scrape. When I do this, it creates a sandboxed version of my global Python installation. It copies, it's like as if I have a completely new Python somewhere on my computer that has nothing else installed. It's a completely freshly installed Python. Okay. Now that I have this virtual environment, I also need to activate it. Okay, so the pyenv command has an activate subcommand, and I can say I want to activate the Kindle Scrape environment now. And you can see when I do that, okay, actually I was already active. Let me deactivate it first so that you can see the difference. Pyenv deactivate. Okay, so normally it looks like this. Now when I activate it, you can see my command prompt changes, and it shows me that the Kindle Scrape virtual environment is now active. Okay, and now that it's active, I can use the pip command to install any Python package. Sorry. So the requirements text file is here in this folder, right? So I can do pip install -r requirements text. So that's the cool thing about the requirements text file. It will then install every single package simultaneously, so to speak. Yeah. So I don't have to pip install every single package one after the other. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we are using Google Colab, we need to do all this. Because you're using Visual Studio, right?
Yes. When you use Google Colab on, you have to install these packages as well. Yeah. In a Jupyter notebook, you don't have the pip command, right? You would have to write it into the cell. You would have to write exclamation mark, pip install, whatever. And then if it's not some super crazy machine learning package that needs C compilation or whatever, then it will be installed. Yeah. And then every time when you go away and then next day you load the notebook again, you have to run that cell and install all these things again, right? Because every time you start Google Colab, it gives you a new computer, so to speak. Right. Yeah. And then the packages will be gone. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the difference. Using Visual Studio, you're actually saving in your computer.
Yeah, now the packages are in my computer, inside the Kindle Scrape virtual environment. Yeah. Yeah. So, and imagine now, if I would like to work on another project, I would do pyenv virtual env, and then like something else, and then I have another completely new Python environment on my machine. Yeah. So now it has created another one, and then I could say pyenv activate, and then I have called this one something else, right? Can it autocomplete? Yeah. See, now something else is active. Yeah? And if I do a pip freeze over here, you can see it's empty. Nothing is installed in this environment right now. But when I do pyenv activate Kindle scrape, yeah, back to this one, and I do a pip freeze, it will show me that there's a whole bunch of stuff installed inside this environment right now. Okay? You might wonder, why is this so much? Because in the requirements text file, we can see it's just like 7 packages, right? But all of these packages, they rely on other packages as well. And then those packages also rely on other packages, so it balloons into hundreds of packages very, very quickly. Okay? Is this blinding you? Should I switch to the dark theme? Okay. All right. So we've covered the git ignore file, we've covered the requirements text file, and we've learned a little bit about virtual environments. So this is really, really useful, right? If you work on any side project in Python, make sure you first create a virtual environment for yourself, and then install everything into that environment. Yeah. Now we can get to the actual coding. Okay. So first I asked myself, how can I take a screenshot of my screen? You know, I Googled around a little bit. I asked ChatGPT. I kind of already knew that the Pillow library can do this. So, and I think ChatGPT basically gave me the answer, and it says there is this image grab class. Yeah, I can say from the pill library. It's kind of confusing. Pill is actually pillow. Yeah, when you do pip install pillow, then you can import from pill. Okay. So there's a class called image grab, and we can, call a function called grab that exists on that class. And then suddenly we have a magical variable here that is a screenshot of my whole screen. So, and then there's this screenshot class. This image has lots of useful functions as well. And one of them is the crop function. And here we will use the top left and bottom right coordinates that I had stored here in my local settings earlier. I have my top left and bottom right coordinates over here, right? So we're going to use those coordinates to crop the screenshot into just the part where the Kindle book actually is, okay? And then I create a file name here. So for those of you who are completely new to Python, when you see quotation marks, that means I'm making a string variable, which is a text variable. And when you put an F in front of that, then you make a special kind of string, which is called format string or F string. And these strings are powerful. Now we can place these curly brackets here, and we can insert variables at that location into the string, okay? If I wouldn't do an F string, I would have to do something like this, right? File name is a string, and it starts with my files path, and then plus, screenshots, and then plus the time. Here I'm doing something with time. And so I could combine several strings just with the plus operator in Python. But if you know, I just want to make one large string and I want to insert certain variables into my string, then using an F string is a really cool way of doing it. Okay. So I have my file name here, and then this screenshot variable has a save function which saves the file. Okay, let's try this. Yeah? You can actually run this program from the terminal by typing Python Python-m Kindle scrape. So this refers to the other Kindle scrape folder that's inside my first Kindle scrape folder. And I know I just created a file called screenshot, right? That's inside that folder. So that is the name of the Python module that I'm running. And it's going to run the program, okay? If everything went well, there should now be a file here in screenshots, and there really is one. And it should have taken something from the middle of my screen. That's the middle of my terminal, basically, okay? So, well, I can't read my book and at the same time also have the terminal open to execute that program all the time, right? So how do I make sure that I can do that? So this is going to be different on Windows. On Mac, I found out there is this tool called Automator, yeah, which allows you to create automated workflows, and then you can use the keyboard shortcuts tool to assign these workflows to certain keys. Okay, so let me try if I can show you the Automator tool. Yeah, there's always the problem that so the Automator tool works a little bit like this. You make a new workflow, okay, And then here you say you want to execute a shell script, run shell script over here. And then here you fill in what script you want to run, okay? So basically here I would do something like Python-m and then the path to my Kindle scrape file, the same thing that I just executed here on the terminal, okay? You would have to do some extra tasks to make sure that you activate your virtual environment first. Yeah, so actually we would have to do something like pyenv activate Kindle scrape was the name of the environment, right? Scrape, and then ampersand. When you do 2 ampersand, then you can run another terminal command right after the first one. So this way you can chain several terminal commands behind each other, okay? So that way I can, you know, then also cd into the projects folder maybe, and into the Kindle scrape folder. And then another command would be to run Python Kindle scrape dot screenshot, yeah? And then afterwards, maybe you want to do a notification. So then I added another task over here where I just say success or whatever. So then when I bind this to a keyboard shortcut and I press the button, then it will run my Python script and it will then show me success, okay? So that's what I did to you know, be able to read the book and also take screenshots at the same time, yeah? So for Windows, I don't know. For Windows, actually, I don't know. I haven't used it in such a long time. But I'm pretty sure if you ask ChatGPT, it's going to tell you right away how to do it. Okay, let's actually take a bunch of screenshots. Okay, so I have my book here, and imagine I'm reading the book now. You know, have a cup of coffee, and so like I took a screenshot now. Let's see, and there is it. Okay. So we can see here, it has taken exactly the part of the screen that contains the text, okay? Let me just take like 6 pages or so. And it's because of the projector, we don't see the notification. If I do this on my normal monitor, there will be a notification coming up when it has successfully taken a screenshot. Here, I'll just wait 4 seconds or so. Another one. Another one. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. So, okay, sorry, I don't know if I missed a page. Let me just take it from page 2 again. All right, so S. Okay, I think now, yeah, now it's the next subchapter and then just one more page. And we won't care too much about the second subchapter. So if everything went well, I have a whole bunch of screenshots now of all the pages that I have read, okay? And here's the second subchapter and the second page of the second subchapter, okay? All right. So let me close the automator. Now the next task is we want to turn those screenshots into actual text files using some kind of OCR technology. Okay, so I created a file called scrape.py, and I will, you know, I asked ChatGPT, how can I scrape? And it told me, you know, there's a library called pytesseract. So if I pip install pytesseract, and remember, it's part of our requirements text file, so it's already installed, yeah. Then I can import it. And the only line really that does all the magic is this line over here. Yeah, the pytesseract module has a function called image to string, and here we simply pass in the file name of one of those files over here, and then it will return text, which we can store in a Python variable, and then I can do something with that text. Okay, I'm doing this in a loop here. So Python has the OS module, which has a listdir function. So that gives me a list of all the file names, okay? So I have all my file names here in a Python list, yeah? And I loop over every single file name and use the pytesseract function to turn it into text, okay? And I'm adding the whole text to a list here. So basically, every single file becomes another entry in my text array over here, yeah, in this list. So in the end, you can imagine we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 strings inside this text variable here, okay? Then finally, I will open a new file for writing. When you open a file here with W, it means writing. So it will open the file, and then I will dump all the texts from all the 7 text or 9 texts that I have collected into that file. Okay. So let's have a look how that looks like if we run this. So Python -m Kindle scrape, and we have to pass in. No, actually we don't. It's gonna know what to do, I think. Yeah. So it has identified 9 files, and it will read all of them into lists, and then finally it produces one output file over here. Let's see. Text. Here we go. So all the screenshots have been turned into a simple text file. So now I can copy and paste all this, and I can do further processing with this text. Let's also make sure that this is actually correct, right? We can see, actually we need to delete this over here. So we can see it starts with the production of goods and services is not a purely technological matter. And it really is the same text as we can see here. And it ends with later on the case for natural money production, blah, blah, blah. So let's scroll all the way down. Later on the case for natural money production. So it seems pretty accurate. It has, there don't seem to be any typos or any artifacts here, right? So we have actually really turned these screenshots into text, which is pretty awesome, I think, that we can just do that with one line of code, right? You can see there are some quirks, like sometimes when the book has new lines and new paragraphs, it will insert empty lines over here. So that can sometimes be a problem, especially when it separates our actual headlines. So let's go down to the second subchapter over here. In the book, let's see, it looked like this, right? It's on 2 lines. And then the OCR will do the same. It will also put that on 2 lines. Yeah. So let me scroll down over here. See, the second subchapter is also split into 2 lines. This makes it a little bit harder for us to process this later. Okay. All right, so second part is done. So first part was we take a screenshot. Second part is we turn all the screenshots into one big text file, okay? And you can see this is not too much code. Most of the code here is making file names and deciding where to save, how to get my files, and then where to save the final file, right? The actual magical logic is just this one single line over here, right? And for the screenshot taking, the actual logic is just this one screenshot, the screen grab and the cropping over here, 2 lines of code, okay? All right, so now I came up with a little crutch here. I made an outline file. So, I mean, this is not perfect, right? The OCR software cannot detect what is a headline, what is a subheadline. It doesn't know font sizes and things like that. So as I'm reading the book, I have to manually write down the names of the book, the chapter, and the subchapters that I'm reading, okay? That is still a huge time save when you read a really, really big book where subchapter is very long. This is still worth it, okay? So let's keep in mind we have this outline file here. I'll get back to that file later, okay? And we manually create that file as we read the book, okay? So next. See, at this point, I didn't know how to do it. So, and you know, when I give these talks, I want to encourage you to make use of ChatGPT, right? You now don't need to be a Python super genius programmer anymore. You don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to boot camps or whatever. If you have some idea, you can describe what you want to do, and it's going to show you the code. And most of the time, the code works very well, okay? So I ask it, I have an array of chapters, like here, and I have a long string where these chapters appear somewhere in the string. Yeah? So all this text here, consider this to be a long text in just one line. And so I know that my subchapter titles will be somewhere in that long text, okay? Please chunk the long string so that each chapter is just one chunk. So, and it came up with this code over here, and it just worked, okay? I was actually pretty mind blown. There was stuff in there that I never have seen before in my career. I've been coding for 25 years, Python maybe 12 years, and it came up with this thing over here. So here's another thing that I want to tell you, right? If ChatGPT spits out some cryptic magical stuff, you can ask it, like you can say, please explain what this line of code does, and it's going to tell you in great detail what every single part of it means, okay? So, the thing that I didn't know here was that we can split text. That I already knew, that Python has something to split text by a certain character, but I didn't know that we can also use regular expressions to split text. I will explain this in a second, right? So that was something completely new to me and blew my mind, okay? And made this, so ChatGPT came up with a very elegant solution. I would have coded some horrible crap that was probably 50 lines longer and would have taken me 2 days to code, right? Okay, so let's try to visualize what this algorithm is trying to do, right? So imagine our book looks like this, right? We have line by line here. There's a chapter title or subchapter title in our case. Then there's like lots of text, and there's another subchapter title, which could even be 2 lines, right? These 2 lines here are still one title for the second subchapter, okay? And then there is the whole text of the second subchapter. Imagine if we would transform this book into this over here. Just one single line. We just flatten everything into one single line. Then you can imagine that our chapter titles are here, and then the whole content of the chapter is here, and then the next chapter title is going to be here, and then the whole content of the next chapter is going to be here, okay? So I have one long line, and I know the names of my subchapters over here because, remember, I have created this outline file where I have put the names of the chapters, okay? So, and basically, I told ChatGPT, this is the situation, right? I have a long string where there is the subchapter titles, and I want you to extract this, only the content, right? So we kind of have to split the string wherever there is a title. We don't want to have the titles. We want to cut those away, and we want to only be left with the content of the book, okay? So, and so then basically ChatGPT came up with this code over here, right? Which I will put into the subchapters file. And here, so what's happening here? This command here, the join command, means, no, over here. Here, the join command means I want to take all the content from my big text file, and I want to join it into one long line of code. Okay, so that's basically what this line does here. And this is just another little extra cleanup, because when we turn all this into one long line, it can sometimes be that between the line splits there are 2 spaces or more spaces, and I just don't want that. So that extra command makes sure to remove additional spaces, basically. Okay. So that's what this command here does. And the Ray library, by the way, is regular expressions in Python. Yeah. So here I'm defining a regular expression that represents 1 or more spaces. The plus sign means 1 or more, and you can see here is a space. So this expression here matches anything that has 1 or more spaces, and I'm replacing them with just 1 space. So whenever there are multiple spaces, I'm replacing that with just 1 space. Okay, maybe at this point I should tell you a little bit about regular expressions, right? I'm pretty sure for those of you who have never done programming, you definitely don't know what regular expressions are. It's an incredibly powerful descriptive language to find certain patterns in text. Okay, so let's say this has, or let's say there's a text here. My email is mbroch@gmail.com, blah blah blah, and you want to extract just the email. How do you do that? Right? You have this text and you want to extract only the email. You know it's somewhere in the text there is an email, but I don't know exactly where. So you cannot say I want to extract after the 20th characters. You just don't know at what position the email is. Okay, so we can describe. An email has an @ symbol, and it's followed by anything but an @ symbol, yeah, and 1 or more, and then there is a dot somewhere. How do I do this? Every time I have to, usually I ask ChatGPT, give me a regular expression for emails, and it's going to come up with something. Or I build this up slowly, right? There is normally here a cheat sheet. What is the thing for word boundary? \b. 1 or more. Why is it going to the blah, blah, blah? Okay. Okay, it's probably a bad example to use email here because email is pretty tough. Let's ask ChatGPT. No, that's going to be too tough as well. It's going to come up with a gigantic one. But yeah, hopefully you get an idea. You describe how the text looks like that you are looking for, okay? And so let's say I'm looking for, let's try this again. At symbol followed by, anything but an at symbol and a space, one or more. Now it looks better, right? And in front of the at symbol is also anything but an at symbol and a space, one or more. And now I have made like a little ghetto regular expression that captures emails, okay? So, this is the power of the regular expression syntax. If I had a long text, I can now use the Ray module to extract just this, anything that matches this expression from that long text, okay? So what we are doing here is we are building a regular expression by taking all our subchapter titles from our outline here. So we are taking these two over here, okay? And we are combining them with a pipe symbol. So this will create a string that looks like this. It will be the first chapter over here, this one. Okay, here, damn it. I pasted too much. The first chapter, then a pipe symbol. Yeah, that's why this pipe symbol is over here. And then it will put in the second subchapter after the pipe symbol. Something like this, okay? Or in other terms, it would be like chapter 1, pipe, chapter 2, pipe, chapter 3, and so on, okay? So it produces this kind of regular expression. Why do we want that? Let's imagine our text would be like this. Chapter 1, blah, blah, blah. Chapter 2, blah, blah, blah. Chapter 3, okay? Our goal is to find the chapter titles. So we will say, we will make a regular expression. We will say we expect there to be the text chapter 1 or chapter 2. So the pipe in regular expression means or, okay? Or chapter 3. So I can just make a silly, very long regular expression that contains all the subchapters that I'm expecting. And then, Python is able to detect these positions of my very, very long text where only the headlines are, okay? So then I can use the regular expressions split function to split my very, very long text at those locations that match the pattern that I have built up, where the headlines are, basically, okay? So now I have inside the subchapters variable here, I have what I want. I have a list of only the content of each subchapter, and we've cut away the headlines, yeah? That's a good one. If one of those subchapters contains the pipe symbol, then I will have a problem. But I mean, how often have you seen a pipe symbol in a book in a chapter title? I think that's very, very rare. I'm willing to build this software and not worry about this. When it happens, then I will have to build a fix. Yeah. It's just an or, it means or, yeah. But yeah, if in our actual chapter text, there would also be a pipe, see, then it breaks. It wouldn't, oh no, actually, no, so we would say we are, it's probably still okay. In our regular expression, we would then say this chapter is actually called, we would say, when you do a backslash pipe, then you say, I'm not wanting to insert the or here. I'm wanting to literally expect the pipe symbol as part of the chapter title. If you put a backslash here, then this pipe no longer means or, now it means pipe. Okay, yes, but you can see the blue part here, it has correctly identified my chapter. So even if there are weird special characters, you can build your regular expression in such a way that you, most books are, they just have English words, English words over here, right? So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. All right, so, yeah. Oh, yep. But I would be writing down the whole chapter title here, right? And I'm looking for the exact, okay, I know what you mean. I have also never seen that in a book. I mean, yeah, there are edge cases like this where you would get into trouble, yeah? So you're like saying chapter 1, refers to chapter 2, right? And then we have a chapter that's called chapter 2. Then when we are looking for chapter 2, that kind of also matches chapter 1 already, and then we are in trouble. Yeah, no idea what would happen in that case. Yeah, okay, yeah, in regular expression, yep, there's probably something to refer to the position, right? Only the first one, and here's the second one, and so on. Yeah. Okay. Right, so this code, of course, as for you guys who have never done Python programming before, this is very hard to understand. But it was also hard to understand for me, and I've been coding for 25 years, right? So just ask ChatGPT, paste it in, see if it works. If it works, you can celebrate, and then ask ChatGPT to explain to you why it works, right? And then you learn, and you level up as a programmer, okay? Yeah.
Content underscore normalize is a variable. Where do you declare it?
Here, I declare it over here.
On the top, well, with the statement itself, not on the top.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I'm taking here. This is the content from the file. This is literally everything like this, yeah, line by line. And so we are assuming that that is a list of lines. Yeah, we are then looping over every line in this list, stripping away all the white space. So then it becomes one gigantic line of text. And then we insert an empty space in between each line again.
No, I'm saying that, like for example, content underscore normalize, like string, something like that. No, you don't declare it? Or you just
this is the declaration here. I'm doing a computation which returns a string and storing it in this variable, and that creates the variable. Yeah? Okay, cool. So we have figured out how to look at this file and extract the contents of each chapter into one text. Yeah. What are we doing next? Now we will want to chunk it up into a prompt and send it to ChatGPT and say, please summarize this chapter. Okay. So you can imagine our prompt looks like this. Your task is as follows, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So there is a library called TickToken, yeah, which can count. Oh, I need to connect to my phone again. Which can count the how many tokens some text represents over here. Yeah, so you just import TickToken and you throw in your text, and it's going to tell you this text represents 5 tokens or whatever. Yeah. So I have used that to count this part over here, and I know it's 101 tokens. What we see here from here to here, yeah. So oops, from here to here, that is 101 tokens. Okay. Then we will want to insert the actual subchapter text, but we don't know how much we can insert, okay? And then we need to leave some space for the ChatGPT response as well. The actual summary that comes back to us also needs to fit into our total of 16,384 tokens, okay? So I'm saying, I mean, obviously my summaries are supposed to be short. I don't want to, if it's long, I might as well just read the book, right? So I'm saying I'm reserving 2,000 tokens for the response, yeah? That means when I do 16,384 minus 2,000 minus 101, I'm getting the possible amount of tokens for the subchapter text. So it's 14,283 tokens, okay? And of course, a subchapter could be very long. It could be more words than that. Then I will have to send several requests to ChatGPT, right? First, I give it the first 14,000 words and say, please summarize this. Then I give it the next 14,000 words and say, please summarize this. Yeah? Of course, that is a little bit of a problem. Then ChatGPT might lose the context. The beginning of the chapter is probably more coherent than in the middle of the chapter, and it might not know, I'm like in the middle of some text, what's going on. But I have found that usually the summaries are still incredibly accurate, even when it's somewhere in the middle of the chapter, because 14,000 words is quite a lot, and there will be enough context for it to understand what we're talking about, okay? So in other words, so like, how can we design an algorithm that takes a long text and turns it into 4,000 word chunks, okay? So imagine we have all our sentences here. This is one chapter, right? One subchapter. We make 2 variables. One is called chunks and one is called current chunk, okay? And then we ask ourselves, if we add this sentence to current chunk, is current chunk going to be more than 14,000 words? I mean, in the beginning, no sentence is that long. It's probably going to fit in. Yeah? So we will say, yes, it fits. So we fit the first sentence. We will put that into this variable here. Okay. Then we ask ourselves again, if I would now add this second sentence to the first sentence, is the total more than 14,000 words? Okay. Let's say no, it's still less than 14,000 words. So now we have both sentences in here. Okay. And now let's say we have the third sentence, and we ask ourselves again, if I'm adding the third sentence to all the sentences that we have so far, is it going to be more than 14,000 tokens? Let's say yes. Now these are very long sentences, and now that would be too much. Okay, that means we cannot add this third sentence to the ones that we already have. Then we would have more than 14,000. Okay, what do we do now? We move the two sentences that we have already captured into the chunks variable, and then we clear up the current chunks variable, and then we put the third sentence into the current chunks variable, okay? And then we keep doing that. We always build up the current chunks variable until it is almost too large, and then we store it back into the another chunk. Yeah? And this is how we create several chunks that are never longer than 14,000 tokens, okay? So, I've used this algorithm on the last talk already, and I didn't really fully explain it. And now I thought I came up with a cool visualization to explain this, hopefully, so that beginners can understand it. And I thought, hey, ChatGPT is so awesome, right? Can ChatGPT, so I told it, I have this code, and I gave it the algorithm. And I asked, are you able to create a diagram that illustrates how this algorithm works? So I was hoping that it comes up with something even better than what I've created here. And so what did it come up with? Yeah, so very creative, I must say, but it's not really representing the algorithm very well. Okay, yeah. So it generated this. Yeah. It's GPT-4. We have DALL-E now, and then it produces the image. Yeah, yeah. That was hilarious. I love it.
But it's using a different language.
Yeah, it's like not even true. I mean, it's English by accident, I think. Yeah, DALL-E is pretty good actually at inserting text. Midjourney, for example, usually cannot insert text, and it's some alien language. Yeah, pretty cool. This is, yeah. One could study this and try to understand what ChatGPT is actually thinking. Okay, anyways. There is, so if you do this at home, in order for the code to work, I'm using this library called Spacey that is able to detect English sentences. Yeah, so I never want to separate a sentence somewhere in the middle. So the Spacey library makes sure that if we give it a huge amount of text, it turns it into a list of only sentences, full sentences. It never cuts somewhere in the middle of the sentence. Yeah, so and if you want to use that library, you must download one of those machine learning models. So I'm using the medium, actually I'm using the small one here. It's 12 megabytes, I believe. So that needs to be downloaded just once. After that, you can import Spacey, you can use it, and it's just going to work, okay? So that's here on the slides in case you want to try this at home. And then we can finally produce the summarize file, which is, of course, the most complicated one. There's a lot going on here. I always have my main program down here, right? So let's try to understand roughly what the main program says. So I'm expecting the file name from the terminal. Then I'm using the get subchapters function that we've built earlier. Okay, so if you use Visual Studio, you can actually press Command-click, and it goes to the function definition of that function. And you can see it opens another file here, right? So what we did in the last step, that's the reason why I separate things into different files, so that I can reuse these things in other files as well, right? This separating stuff into subchapters to me sounded like something that's quite useful in itself, even if I want to use it in a completely different project. So that's why I put that into its own file over here, instead of just building everything into one gigantic Python file. You could do that. You could just write everything into one single file, of course, right? So we are getting all the subchapters here, right? And then we loop over every single subchapter. And then we call a split text function, which is in this very same file. We will look at that in a second. That's basically our friend over here, like this thing here, right? And then once I have split every subchapter into however many chunks, which each chunk is never more than 14,000 tokens, remember, right? Then for each chunk, I will send one request to the OpenAI API to ask ChatGPT to give me a summary of that chunk, okay? Maybe let's look at the split text function first. So when I press control click, it jumps up to the function. It's in the same file, right? So down here, I'm calling it. When I scroll up over here, there's the split text function. And this code over here is basically what I described, what I tried to describe, where we pretend to add it to the current chunk. Then we count, is this now more than 14,000? And if it's more, then we move everything into the big chunks variable and we make a new chunk with the current thing. And if it's not more, then we add the current thing just to the sentences that we already have. Yeah? By the way, I never came up with this. When I did the last talk about YouTube Summarizer, I asked ChatGPT how to do this, and it produced this function basically, and it worked perfectly on the first try already. Okay, so that's how we split the chunks, right? And how do we send an API request to OpenAI? I'm sure that is why everybody here came to this talk, right? You can see here, it's not complicated. Over here. So we have to import OpenAI, okay? And then we can call OpenAI chat completion create. We will have to define our model over here. I did that at the very top of the file. There's a variable called model. So here I'm using GPT 3.5. I'm not using GPT-4, which would be better, but I didn't have access yet to the 16,000 token window for GPT-4 yet. And I think there's a 13,000 token window coming up as well. And I think a larger window is better than having a smarter GPT. GPT-3 is perfectly well suited for creating summaries, okay? So I defined my model over here. I have looked it up on the OpenAI documentation. Where is it? Over here. So on their documentation, they tell you how many tokens that model can deal with. Okay, so I wrote that down over here, and I said, okay, actually my slides are wrong. I assumed 2,000, right? But here I decided at some point that 4,000 is better. So I'm allowing ChatGPT to answer me 4,000 tokens. Okay, so where were we? Down here, get summary. Right, so we call chat completion, we fill in the model, and so then, it's kind of stupid that we have to use chat completion here. They assume we want to build a chat bot where we say something, then it answers, and then we say something else, and we send the whole thing back to them, and it answers. So every time we send the whole thing back and forth, right? So the idea is here that this list over here becomes a list of back and forth between human and machine, okay? So it's like the user says something, and then the bot replies with something, and then the human says something, and so on, okay? But in our case, we just have one single prompt and one single answer, so actually we just put one single dictionary over here, where just the user says something, okay? We will look at this prompt variable here in a second. Then we have to define how many tokens we want to use. That's calculated already. Temperature means how creative we want this thing to be. So I think most people say 0.8 seems to be a sweet spot where it surprises you with cool answers and stuff. But I find for sober summaries, 0 is the best. I don't want it to make up anything. It's just, it's just supposed to give me the raw facts of the text, okay? And this is, N is, if you use something less, something more than 0, you can say, give me maybe 3 answers so that you can choose the best. But of course, you have to pay 3 times as much as well. So don't do this. Always put 1 here. That's also the default, by the way. Okay, so let's have a look at the prompt over here, right? Here, we use this prompt variable. When we go all the way to the top, you can see this is our prompt over here, okay? It's a big string in Python where we have these curly brackets over here. That's interesting, right? And you see they are called book title, chapter title, subchapter title, and chunk, all right? So now let's go back down to where we are using this. And so when we call the format function, we can fill in actual text for those placeholders, book title, chapter title, subchapter title, and chunk, okay? So wait, where were we calling it? We were calling it down here. So here we prepare the prompt. So you can see here is where we fill in the chunk. Those are the 14,000 words of that current chunk that we are asking to summarize, okay? So this here will basically create the whole prompt, which we then send over to OpenAI over here. And then we get our result. And down here, we take that result. So the result is a complex data structure. The very first time I used my debugger, and I ask it for a result, and I stop the program there, and I just look at how does the response look like. It's also documented on the OpenAI website how the response looks like. So it turns out the response from OpenAI is a dictionary that has a key choices. And choices is a list of all the possible answers that it has given me. So I take the first item of that list because I only ask for one answer anyways, right? Then each answer is a dictionary which has, among other things, for example, the amount of tokens that it used and the cost and so on. It has a field message, and that field has some other fields, and it has content. And that is the actual text of the ChatGPT response. Yeah? So by doing this over here, I'm just extracting the actual response from OpenAI, okay? So then I save this into my summaries, and then I save all my summaries to disk, okay? And I don't want to bore you too much with how I formatted this nicely with Markdown syntax, okay? Because I think this is already a lot for you all to ingest what I showed you already, and this is just the icing on the cake. It's not super important, okay? So with all this, let's try this. Let's run this program. So now we are going to call, what's the name of this file? Summarize. Huh? I have saved the file. It's so remember, first we took screenshots, and then we turned everything into text, okay? And this is the file that I want it to summarize. So this is the file name that I will provide now. And so you're asking how I'm saving the final summaries, basically, right? So in Python, I have to open a new file for writing. So first I construct some kind of file name over here. Yeah. So file path is always something from my local settings. That's the path to the Kindle scrape folder and then to the files subfolder, okay? So I start with file path, and then I want this file to be in the summaries folder. It's currently empty. And then I want it to be the same file name as this file name over here, but .txt. And so I'm opening this non-existent file for writing. And then here I'm using file.write to write one line, which is going to be the main chapter title. And then for each subchapter, I'm writing another line, which has a little bit of indentation. And 2 hashtags means subchapter in Markdown. 1 hashtag means big main chapter in Markdown, okay? So I write, in the second line, I write the subchapter title, and then I loop over every single line from the ChatGPT answer and put even more indentation there, and put in all the answers from ChatGPT, every single line. And
also your loop statement is 4. What is your loop statement?
Yeah, this is a so-called list comprehension. So this is some very special syntax in Python. Yeah, so it's called list comprehensions. You can ask ChatGPT to teach you everything about list comprehensions. So let's say you have a list of numbers, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Then let's say you want to change this list of numbers into, let's say you want to multiply every number with 10. You can now do a for loop in one line of code, basically. You can say something like, for each number in my numbers list, okay, I want to take the number and multiply it with 10. So this will turn the numbers list basically into 10, 20, 30, 40. This line of code turns this into this, okay? So this is called list comprehensions. And you can even have if statements over here. So let's say I'm using Copilot, so ChatGPT understood that I will most likely want to tell you about finding only the even numbers, and it has auto-completed this for me, right? So you can say, for each number in numbers, if the number is fully divisible by 2, which means it's an even number, then multiply the number by 10. So this would then create a new list, numbers, which looks like 20, 40, and the other 2 will be out, okay? So this comprehension is just a way in one line of code to look very smart because no one else can understand what the hell you were thinking, right? It's so in my company, I kind of have as a rule, if you can do it as a for loop, then do it as a for loop and not as a list comprehension, yeah, because that's easier to understand for everybody. Of course, yeah, this, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT came up with this. ChatGPT always tries to be very smart, right? So yeah, this loops over all the lines and writes them into the file as well, yeah? So let's try, okay? So my file name is this. Summarize this file. So it's first going to split it, okay? And it has identified one subchapter and is sending it to OpenAI for summarization. I assume none of the chapters has more than 14,000 words, so we probably will only need 2 prompts. This is probably the, okay, the first chapter had more than 14,000 words. Even more, wow, okay. And so we sent 4 prompts to OpenAI, right? So we are now about 60 cents poorer than before, okay? And here's our summary, okay? And so you can see the first line is the main chapter, then indented is the subchapter, and this is what ChatGPT came up with, okay? So the production of goods and services is influenced by a legal framework. There are ethical problems for producing money, but nobody ever talks about it. You know, the Bible actually had some thoughts about, you know, inflating the money supply. That's actually not very ethical. So yeah, it's actually pretty good summarization of that chapter, okay? So, and then what I usually do is, after I have created this, I will open my, my Notes app. And then I will say, I just summarize, I will probably create a note for this book, Ethics of Money Production. Okay, production, I actually have that already. I make a new one now. And now, thankfully, that it's formatted in a nice way. I can just copy everything from here into my notes, and bam, it looks super nice already. And then I can, you know, I can close these chapters down. And then as I'm continue reading the book, I will paste more and more subchapters into this, okay? So yeah, this is how, now that you can summarize YouTube videos, you don't have to spend 2 hours anymore. Yeah, you get summaries like this, which you can read in 1 minute. You can now also read books. I would still recommend to actually read the book, of course, right? But usually I was taking like notes with pen and paper, and that makes the reading process very, very slow, okay? But now I can just read the book and just take screenshots as I'm reading. And then when I'm done taking all the screenshots, I just, you know, go to my outline file, outline over here, and just quickly fill in like the bunch of subchapters that I've read. And then I will run my script, and it's producing a summary for me. I can very quickly read this summary and decide if it's correct or not, because I've just read the book. And by reading the summary, you also reinforce what you've just read. You know, you're kind of teaching yourself again in a shortened way. You might then maybe even decide, oh, actually, this is actually, you know, it might sometimes summarize things in a way that makes you understand it better. Yeah, maybe it was a very complicated topic and you just glossed over that paragraph and you just kept on reading. You didn't fully understand it. But then when you read the summary again and you've already finished the whole chapter, probably you gained more knowledge. If you would have read the difficult paragraph now, you would now understand it. So now when you also read the summary on top of your full knowledge now, you finally understand that paragraph in hindsight. So I think this is a quite cool process of, you know, reading books in a more active way. I wouldn't read Harry Potter in this way. That's like not very relaxing to keep screenshotting everything, right? But if you read nonfiction books with difficult topics, then this can be extremely powerful. Yeah. 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 Well, then PNG files, you still need to use the OCR to turn it into text and then summarize it, right? Yeah. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. But there are already libraries to actually already extract text from PDFs. So for PDFs, you don't have to screenshot them first. There's already ways to get the text out of a PDF. Yeah.
How accurate is the summary?
Very, very good.
You know, do you have a model that shows how accurate it is?
Well, that's just my experience. I've read the book and I read the summary and I say, yeah, that's good. And you do that for a few weeks and then you start to trust the system. I mean, of course, there's no mathematical way for me to prove how accurate the summary is, of course. Yeah. But that's why I split it into subchapters. If I would give it the entire chapter, the text would become too large. And also, by giving it the name of the subchapter, that's a very important piece of context that makes the summaries more accurate. If I would only give it the name, like introduction, and the actual text, it would probably not know what it's talking about as it gets to the later parts, the later 14,000 words, right? But by always adding the book title, chapter, and subchapter title, it knows always what it's roughly about, and then the summaries become more accurate. There was another question, right? Yeah, I mean, Kindle is protected by ORM, right? I know how to pirate this and crack it, but I don't want to do this in a public library. So the best way to do it legally is to just take screenshot, and nobody can stop you from doing that. And this software would technically allow you to even read physical books and just take screenshots with your phone. Right? As long as you straighten the pages quite well and you have good lighting, the screenshots which you take with your phone from physical books will be good enough to also extract the text, right? And I mean, that is also very powerful. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if I would build this out even more, I would crack the DRM and just, take the whole book straight away and not even have to read it and not even have to screenshot everything. Yeah. But if you use a bookstore other than Amazon's bookstore where there is no DRM, even better. Then you might already be able to convert the EPUB file into a PDF probably, and then just extract all the text. Then you don't have to screenshot everything, and everything else that we did still applies. Yeah.
How does the PyType interpret
the footnote? You mean this one? Yeah, it will show up as the number 10. It will make no sense, but it's just a such a tiny part of the whole text. ChatGPT understands that it's like some artifact and it just ignores it. Yeah. There was a question at the back.
While you're doing this, do you ever put this in a or whatever and protect it?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So, and that's the whole reason why I came up with these 3-part talk series. This is part 2, right? And the third part, which I will hopefully have ready in January, is taking all my Logseq notes. I have thousands of them, right? And vectorizing them. So we can basically, I would take every subchapter basically and turn this into a vector. Yeah. So we could vectorize this with OpenAI embeddings. So each paragraph of text here becomes a vector with 1,500 dimensions or so. And I will store them in a vector database. Yeah, correct. And so then I could build a little Python program, which is like a search engine over my own knowledge. And then I could ask natural language questions. I could say, what do I know about the ethics of money production? And specifically, what does the Bible say about it? Maybe I vaguely remember that I've read that somewhere, but I don't know where. I just remember ethics of money production and Bible. I've seen that some time ago, right? But I don't know the book anymore. I don't know the context, whatever. So I could just write this English sentence and vectorize the English sentence in the same way, also 1,500 dimensions. And then I can do a nearest neighbor search and find all the notes, the vectors of all those notes that are similar to my question, okay? So then I will query my database and just take, let's say, as many notes as possible to squeeze them into the 14,000 words context. And then my ChatGPT prompt will be something like, I have this text, as much notes as possible, and I have this question, and then my question. Please answer only based on the text that I've just given you, right? So then ChatGPT will basically read all my notes in 1 second and filter out the relevant things and reply to me based on your knowledge. You have read this book and this subchapter, and they were talking about ethics of money production and how it was mentioned in the Bible, right? So you can, I can already search my knowledge right now. I could say, what do I know about cholesterol? I always like to give this example because I know a lot about it. So you can see over the past, I have thousands of pages which somehow talk about cholesterol. Okay, so if I want to know something specific, what now should I read all this? So that every time I want to refresh my knowledge about cholesterol, I have to read all this. This is not feasible, right? And I can't even do multiple keywords over here. I can just search for single pages, and I have to type exactly the word that I'm searching for. That's also a problem with normal full text search that we are used to, okay? But now we have transcended that age of full text search. We can now vectorize our content and then ask English questions, and we can describe roughly what we are looking for. We don't have to ask for the exact words that we are looking for, okay? So yeah, this is a very good question. This is the reason why I'm doing all this, and hopefully in January I can show you all how we can do that final part where we actually query this knowledge that we are building up, okay?
Quick question on that chunking of 14,000.
Mm-hmm.
Also there, I mean, the maximum response of token is 16,000 according to what you show us.
Yeah.
But then you're trying to chunk it to 14,000. What's the point of doing that?
So that goes back over here, right? So we have 16,000 tokens in total. We need 4,000 tokens. Actually, I use 4,000. Here I'm using 2,000 for the response, right? So what ChatGPT response needs to fit into the 16,000 as well. Then I already have the description over here, what it's supposed to do. That's already 101 tokens. So that leaves us 16,000 minus 2,000 minus 101. 14,000 tokens is the maximum amount of book text that we can squeeze into this whole text over here. Yeah? Okay. So, okay, so ta-da, right? We have achieved our goal. Like one afternoon of coding, basically ChatGPT told me basically everything that I had to do anyways, right? So I didn't even have to be very smart. And when I was doing this, I realized, has anyone seen this meme? It's like, now AI can write emails for you. You just give it bullet points and it makes emails. And then the other person is like, oh, AI can read an email and turn it into bullet points. I feel like we are very close to AI is going to write, the novelist is just writing bullet points and it writes the novel, but we don't even read the novel. We use my software to turn it back into bullet points, right? So that's kind of, oh my God, the future that we are getting into. Okay, yeah, thanks everybody. This was faster than last time, very good. And I will still be here for answering questions. We can all have chit chat a little bit. And yeah, once again, if you want to join the Python user group Telegram group and be aware of future talks that we are doing, then feel free to join. Okay, thank you very much.